What's going on, YouTube? We're back with another fantasy video. Today I'll be going over 5 overvalued wide receivers. Last week I did undervalued for wide receivers and running backs. I'll do a overvalued running back video as well. And then it's off the same ESPN little cheat sheet thing. And it was recently updated Monday morning, but it's not like updated really today because they didn't update the Irv Smith injury. So they must have updated it like at the crack of dawn before that news came out. But anyways, let's get into it. So, first off, we have Mike Evans. This one actually was pretty easy for me. I know that he's never had a season with under 1,000 yards, which that's pretty crazy. But I do think that this year there's just going to be too many weapons, too many mouths to feed, which is never a good thing in fantasy. I think that the Bucs defense, they really came together last year, so I think that a lot of the games they'll just be running the clock a lot. And then also they got O.J. Howard coming back. Chris Godwin was injured for like 4 or 5 games, I believe. Hopefully he'll be healthy the whole year. And then Antonio Brown was a late arrival, so he'll have to compete with him as well. So, I don't think he's declining. I think it's more just the situation he's in, which is a good situation for him, but not for him for fantasy. And then also he's a guy that I try to stay away from. I guess this isn't really a undervalue thing, but he's kind of a goose egg layer. He'll have those high 30, 40 point weeks, and then he'll have another week where he'll have like 3 weeks in a row where he doesn't get 10 points, and that's not what you want. You want a guy that you want a Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, a guy that just always is going to get 8 to 10 receptions, 100 yards if not close, and just always gets high teen, low 20s. You don't want it to be 40 points and then 5 points next week. And that's kind of how Mike Evans was. I know he was really like that 2 years ago. He was a little more consistent last year, but I just think that there's going to be weeks where he's the guy, and then there's going to be weeks where it could be Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown. I don't know if Gronk will be used a lot, but he kind of returned his old ways in the Super Bowl. I know he didn't really do much in the regular season, but maybe they'll get him involved. O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate. There's just too many weapons. Scotty Miller, too. Tyler Johnson. So, yeah, he's just a guy that if he falls, like, to the high teens, then maybe consider it. But there's other guys top 15 where you don't have to worry about sharing the workload. So that's why I'd stay away from Mike. Next, we got Deontay Johnson. I just thought 19 was a little too high. He led last season with drops, which, you know, that might be something that you won't have to worry about. I know a lot of those were really short passes too, just like either screens or just quick slants, and he wasn't ready for them. A lot of passes bouncing off pads. And so, I mean, he still put up really good numbers last year, so I guess it's not a super big deal for fantasy, but a little concerning. Um, I think so. The main reason I put him on here is because their wide receiver room, they're all early. They're top three guys on their depth chart. He's one of them, but the other two are also early 20s, and they're both very talented guys that could break out. I know Juju has not lived up to his season 2 years ago, but you never know. He might go off again. 2 years ago, he had like over 1,500 yards, so he could be that guy. He's only 24, so I don't see why he couldn't be. And then Chase Claypool had a pretty good rookie season. I don't know if he'll take a step further this year, but even if he plays the same as he did last year, then he's still almost at 1,000 yards, like 9 touchdowns. So that takes a little of the work away from Deontay. And then Najee Harris actually impacts his value a lot because everybody knew that James Conner, they weren't going to use him nearly as much as they're planning on using Najee. So that also lowers his value. And then the Steelers' offense just... Everybody is expecting the Steelers' offense to be really bad this year. And they do have weapons and skill positions, but it's the O-line, it's Big Ben. That's just not certain at all how Ben and the O-line is going to perform. So I think it's definitely not worth taking anywhere near in the top 20. Maybe mid to low 20s or mid high 20s. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's that much better than Chase Claypool. I don't know why he's ranked like 10 spots ahead of him, but I could be wrong. So I also have Odell on this list, even though his ranking isn't that good anymore. Usually it's always top 10 or maybe slightly below, but probably because of the ACL tear, and then also just how well their run game has worked. That probably knocks it all the way down to 26. But yeah, I still think 26, there's a lot of other good candidates that are safer. I think Odell, just all the injuries have added up. We don't even know what he's going to be post ACL tear. Usually it takes a while to get your groove back after that, and it's not even been a year. It's been like 10 months. It happened in October, I believe, so pretty close to a year, but I think it takes more than a year to really get past that. And then even before that injury, he also was pretty bad last year. He did have that one really good game against the Cowboys where he got that super long rushing touchdown and kind of reminded everybody how good he still can be. But then he had 2 receiving touchdowns that game too. But then every other game he didn't do anything. Yeah. And then also, obviously, their running game, best running game in the league in my opinion. I think they're not going to pass it very much. So there's not a whole lot of upside for getting them unless you get them pretty late, which 26 is kind of late, but I think that you should hold off for a little bit longer. Probably get him in the 30s. But yeah, he could. It's just so hard to believe that he'll just go off and be the top 5 receiver he once was after all the injuries, right after an ACL tear. Nobody knows what he's gonna be. And he's just never really fit in the Browns offense. So last 2 years, I mean, he wasn't bad his first year with the Browns. He wasn't as good as he was on the Giants, but he was okay. But last year, he just looked like he did not fit. Maybe that'll change this year, but I don't know. Hopefully it works for him. So I put Jamar Chase on here. I know he's kind of a speculative pick. It's easy to write him off. It's easy to hype him up. It's actually a lot easier to hype him up than to write him off. So the main reason that I put him on here is his other two receivers are pretty good. Tyler Boyd, he's not the sexiest receiver, but he gets a lot of receptions. He's gonna finish the year with probably close to 1,000 yards again, with tons of receptions. And then T. Higgins is another emerging guy. So I know this isn't a huge issue, but the drops in the preseason have been a little concerning. Might just be some NFL jitters. Didn't play last year at all. Might just need to get his groove back. But yeah, 5 targets, 4 drops. That doesn't look good, but not a huge deal. Also, Burrow's not looking confident either. He did injure, I believe, 2 or 3 muscles in his knee. MCL, ACL, I think there's one other thing. So, that's not good. I think if Burrow plays this whole season, looks the way he did last year before he got injured at some point. I do think he's going to struggle a little bit the first few weeks, maybe even a month or two, just because it's kind of hard to come back from having your whole knee explode, basically. It's kind of like I don't want to see anything close to what happened to Andrew Luck, but yeah, they didn't address O-line. They took Jamar Chase when they could have taken Penei Sewell, and I get why they took him, but I don't know. I think Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins would have been enough, and then maybe A.J. Green would have tried to keep him around if they didn't take Chase. I know he's old, but having that room would have been just fine, and then having Sewell too. But yeah, I don't know. I'm worried about their pass game just because their O-line, and then I don't know how comfortable Burrow will be. So yeah, I know Chase is already pretty low. He keeps going lower just because all the news coming out, Burrow, and then the preseason drops. But yeah, just I think there's other guys you can get where you don't really have to stress about what he could be. You can get guys that are already there. I know that getting rookies sometimes there's huge upside, but I don't know. I'd stay away from him. Michael Gallup. I kind of liked Gallup last year. I'm not sure what happened with CeeDee Lamb, but he just couldn't really get it going. He's got a lot of hype this year. Everybody's taking CeeDee top 15. Yeah, he's got an insane amount of talent. He was the first picked, or actually, I think Henry Ruggs might have been the first picked. But I think most people coming into the draft said that CeeDee was the most talented receiver of the draft. Hopefully he lives up to that. Amari Cooper's still putting up elite numbers every year. So Michael Gallup's got a lot to compete with. I know they will be passing it a lot anyways with Dak, but I think a huge chunk of that is going to be going to... A huge chunk of that will be going to Cooper, and then Lamb, and then Gallup he'll put up decent yards. I know that he almost had 1,000 yards last year, But I think CeeDee Lamb's only going to get better. Cooper's still young. I think Gallup, he's definitely not going to be a Cowboy again next year. I think he wants to be that guy somewhere. Noted only 3 10-point games last season. You could say, well, that's because they had Andy Dalton, which might be true. But still, even with Dak Prescott, he had only 1 10-point game in the 5 games that Dak played. And yeah, he's the 3rd highest ranked WR3. I believe the other ones are Boyd, and then I think Juju actually was ranked as the WR3 because Johnson and Claypool were above him. But I think, well, I guess Juju has kind of fallen off, but I think most people would take Juju over Gallup just because the one season he had. So yeah, there's a lot of better value picks around here, in my opinion. Like you could go for Laviska Shenault, Devonta Smith, guys that are going to at least be attempted by the offense to get involved much more than Michael Gallup will be. So I just, being a WR3 with a duo of Lamb and Amari Cooper, you should be pretty low no matter how good you are. And Michael Gallup is pretty good, but 37 just little overvalued. So some dishonorable mentions. These guys, I do really like these guys. I just think top 10 is, they're just too young. We know that they're really good, but I just think top 10 was a little too high. I love Terry McLaurin, but I don't think that he's a top 10 fantasy receiver. Everybody's acting like Fitzpatrick is just like an elite quarterback, which he'll go off, but I think that the inconsistency kind of worries me. That's kind of my like main thing, is I don't look at overall like points. I look at week by week, because you could be, I've said this like 4 times already, you don't want a guy that is going to get under 10 points a lot. And McLaurin was a consistent guy, but I think Fitzpatrick is not consistent at all. So it worries me a little bit. He is an upgrade for sure over any quarterback he's ever had, so that's good. But they also draft De'Ami Brown, bring in Curtis Samuel. Not the flashiest guys, but still going to take away a little bit of work. And then also that defense is only getting better. They might be running the clock a lot of games. So I think, yeah, I said avoid the hype, avoid the speculative picks this early. Go for a guy like Keenan Allen. There's lots of other guys in the top 10, low teens. Allen Robinson, Amari Cooper, he's ranked like 15, but he's gonna be good. He's had like 5 great years in a row. Just guys like that. Kind of the same deal with AJ Brown. I think he's just another young guy. Definitely, you can argue top 10. I just think it's a little tough this year with Julio coming in. I know Julio's older, end of his career, out of his prime, but they're still going to get the ball to Julio much more than they did last year with Corey Davis. And yeah, Derrick Henry still exists. They're definitely going to be prioritizing using him as much as possible. But yeah, 7, just kind of a reach for me. I love A.J. Brown. I think that he's just a monster. He's huge. I think that he probably will be top 10, but I think he's more around that 9 or 10 spot. I think that, yeah, just A.J. Brown, he's not going to be the, like, true absolute, like, WR1, because Julio. He will be, like, the 1A, Julio 1B, but there's guys, if you're picking a top 7 guy in a position, he's got to be the absolute guy for sure. So, yeah, like Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen, I don't know why he's ranked lower than both these guys. But yeah, he's a guy I love. Justin Jefferson, I guess you could argue that he's 1A, Thielen's 1B, but he's a guy in that range. Allen Robinson's another good one. He's, I believe, like top 12. For sure going to be the guy in Chicago. Could have a ton of upside if Justin Fields lives up to the hype. But yeah, just true WR1. No respect against A.J. Brown. He is a WR1, but just not like the absolute guy. Because I believe that there will be some games that Julio, if he stays healthy, he'll be the guy for at least like 2 or 3 games. And yeah, if you get a guy like Keenan Allen or Allen Robinson, you don't really have to worry about that as much. So that's why I prefer guys like them. I do really like both these two guys, just not top 10. Maybe A.J. Brown like 10th at the earliest, but yeah. So yeah, that's it for this video. I'll be coming out with the overvalued running backs later this week. Probably, I know the first game is not this Thursday, but next Thursday. I'll probably be making some season predictions soon, awards, everybody's record, playoff seeds, all that. And then also, I'll try to do some of my best bets for week 1 coming out pretty soon too. So yeah, be on the lookout, and I'll see you next time.